Good day, everyone. Composer99 here, and welcome back to Axis Empires, Totaler Krieg. In this session, we're going to play through the Spring 1944 season. Once again, no strategic hexes have changed hands, so the strategic value and victory point counts are unchanged from last video. It's still 2 VP, Axis tied. Let's get rid of these. The Germans reveal their new current card. I should say the Axis, although, Germany certainly is the primary country of the Axis. It's kind of one and the same. The new Axis current card is Spear Appointed Minister. It's not as bad as mobilization limits, but as you can see, it's not a great card. Germany adds an HQ to the delay box. And then they have to pick a new current card, which, because it's the summer coming up, is going to be Case Blue. The Germans are definitely hoping that Case Blue will get them the rest of the way to 3 VP, but I guess we're going to have to see. That's their new pending card. They now have to place seasonal replacements. They don't have any Italians to place right now, although we're eventually going to be able to once we have a Greek unit sitting in Damascus. We might have German units fill in while we're replenishing the Greek army, just so we can massage our Italian units a little better. Anyway, as minor country steps go, we're going to put a Greek unit on the board. We are going to place our German replacements. 1 panzer and 6 infantry steps. So we need at least 2 steps to go to Africa. And we need some replacement steps on the Eastern Front. And then what? It's good weather, so we might have an attack down here. So 1 panzer step. That can go there. 6 infantry steps. We need 1, 2 as replacements in this sector. We need, let's say, 1 as an extra step to take losses. Maybe even 2, although then we'd be running out of steps to put somewhere else. Let's put 1 of these steps down to get over to Kiev in order to build up that unit, maybe. And then 2 steps to go into North Africa. That's it for Axis replacements. Next up, political events. There are none. Next up, support segment. So we have to get a whole bunch of units back home. I guess not a whole bunch, but we have a few. So this goes back to the force pool. That goes to the delay box. And I think we'll just go ahead and place that as a supply convoy for now. And organization, not a whole lot yet. That will do that. I don't think we have any organization of panzers just yet. Nope. Okay. So next up, operational movement. Half 1, half 2, half 3. Half 1, half 2, half 3, half 4. And I think we'll just do the same thing with these. Half 1, half 2, half 3, half 4. So now probably these units swap places. Half, 1, half, 2, 3. Half, 1, half, 2, 3. Maybe the best thing to do would be to retreat a hex instead. So then all these units can get right into place. Although it would be annoying to give ground like that. You know what? We actually should go back to support. I know it's a little out of sequence, but we do want to think about it's good weather right now, so maybe there's an attack somewhere. I think in particular it would be great to take Odessa now so that we have an easier attack here later. So what kind of attack can we get on Odessa? There are 4 factors defending. If we can get a good attack without using armor steps, that's probably preferable. So this is 6, 7, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 27, 33 factors attacking 4. 28 factors attacking 4 is 7 to 1. So 32 is 8 to 1. We can't get natively into the 9 to 1 column. I guess we could actually if we use the armor. Can we get 36 factors with armor? That would be 16, 17, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 37 factors. 36 factors attacking 4 is 9 to 1 natively. There are 2 column shifts for the city and the fort, and right now 1 column shift for HQ. So if we throw in an Air Force, and I think the Soviets will contest it, although they are currently not benefiting from any delay roll modifier, although the German delay roll modifier isn't as good as it used to be now that USCL is up. At the same time, you know, we can always hope for a good delay roll split. At this point, it is impossible for the Germans, oh, that has to be over here. It's impossible for the Axis, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is possible for the Axis to not get an Air Force back in time for the summer. Which would be good. That would be good. For the Allies, that is. It would, of course, also be possible for the Soviets not to get an Air Force back in time for the summer. Which would be bad. I think with the forts, we're probably fine. This hex is not going to get attacked, I think, until the summer, so that's going to waste some of the Axis time. And that's probably fine. So they'll let it slide for now. They keep their powder dry for the summer fighting when they're trying to keep the Germans from crossing the Dnieper. At least from taking Dnipropetrovsk and spreading into the Crimea. So that will do. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That can go there for now. I think that will be it for their movement. Now, what about up here? Do we want to take a step back with our units? Let's do it for now. Does that open up an attack on Riga? Not yet. Half, one, half, half, one, half, two, half, half, one, half, two, half, three, half, one, half, three. And with the reinforcements coming during the summer, we might actually be able to push the Russians back a bit later. All right, I think that's operational movement. No blitz combat, of course. Oh, no, we have some operational movement down here, don't we? That unit goes there. Let's do that, actually. I think that's the smart play. And then combat. Regular combat. We have our attack on Odessa. We have 12, 20, 27, 37, 41 factors attacking 4. So that's 9 to 1. We have column shifts for the city and the fort, and HQ and Air Force. So we're back in the 9 to 1 column. F4. DR202. I'm just going to put that back on its 2-step side. And those units will advance. That's it for combat. Reserve movement. This unit will go here. This unit will go there. This unit will go here. And all these units are stuck. That unit is not technically stuck. It's not stuck in a ZOC, but it has nowhere to move because everywhere it can move is would be in a zone of control. Do we have any movement down here? No. Anything that we might want to move is already in a ZOC. We just have half, one, half, two, half. That is that for that. That brings us to the Western faction turn. The Western faction reveals Operation Sledgehammer. They have no option card events, so they just have to pick their next pending card. Arsenal of Democracy. The last limited war card that the Allied faction is going to need to play. And the one that's going to get them their United States units. So, Operation Sledgehammer replacements are 1 British armor and infantry step. Nominally, there are US steps, but of course we have none in our force pool to place. So we'll go ahead and place an infantry step and an armor step. There's a conditional event we're not likely to see. We can't because we don't have US ground units, much less US ground units that can be in supply anywhere. So what do they want to do? Is there any way right now to take a crack at Egypt? If both of our multi-step units are in the same hex, we would have 15 factors attacking 6, which is 2 to 1, becoming 3 to 2 with the Axis HQ, becoming 2 to 1 with our HQ, 3 to 1 with the Blitz marker. And no guarantee that we're going to get an Air Force out. On the other hand, do the Axis really want to spend Air Forces fighting us down there? They also want to keep their powder dry for fighting in Russia. Even one Air Force would make a big difference. I mean, the 3 to 1 and 4 to 1 columns are pretty similar. There's just a little bit more enemy step losses at the low end of the table, which I guess is what we're hoping for. But it's hard to get much of a better attack than the one on that hex right now. And if we get stalled out by these units, it's going to get much worse. What about attacking Cairo? We would have 8, 9, 10, 12, 19 factors attacking 11. So it would be 3 to 2. That's not what we want. 3 to 2, becoming 1 to 2 with the column shifts for the defender. 1 to 1 with HQ, 3 to 2 with panzers, maybe 2 to 1 with Air Force. So definitely not any better. I think that's the best possibility, to be honest. I'm not terribly fond of that, but there we go. Anyway, we have support units to place first. We're going to go ahead and place a troop convoy here, and then if we want to send units to Sardinia, we might have that option, so let's do that. Although we're probably going to want to funnel tank steps to Egypt, because we're likely to take tank step losses. So, that's good. And what else? Let's go ahead and place the CV fleet, I think. Can we do that? Who can contest a CV fleet? Any Air Force interceptor or CV fleet that can be placed in the same location for hex. We have a naval base in the central Mediterranean, so we can place a CV fleet here. Do the Germans want to contest it? I think they maybe will top out at 1 Air Force, so let's go ahead and do that. And the hope there had been to place a CV strike unit in El Alamein for the blitz combat. And then we'll place an Air Force here. And the Axis will not contest it, I think, because they want to keep their powder dry for the summer. So there we go. And we do have a blitz marker. replace there because it doesn't matter. So that's it for support segment for the Western faction. During operational movement, we will shuttle one of these units to the West Africa box. Let's shuffle that unit over there. We will shuffle this over here and shuffle that over there. And that is operational movement. Next up, Blitz combat. We have 15, 16, 17 factors. Sorry, 13, 14, 15 factors, excuse me. Attacking 5. Sorry, attacking 6. That's 2 to 1. There is 1 shift for the defender for the HQ. We have an offensive shift for HQ, for Air Force, and for armor. So it's 4 to 1 against Hex E1211. So a lot of it's going to depend on the die roll. If the allies roll well, the combat will go well, and they can feel good about themselves. You know, oh, we did a great job. We planned this out so well. And if they roll badly, then, you know, they did a bad job. A 6. Well, they rolled badly. That's an exchange. They have to take a armor step loss. And the Axis also has to take a step loss, which is going to have to be the Italians. Now it's the regular combat segment. The Axis have 5 factors defending, as against 12 factors attacking. That's 2 to 1. 3 to 2. Now let's not commit to the attack, by the way. We're just adding it up. 3 to 2 with the defensive shift. It ends up in the 3 to 1 column with the offensive shifts. So I think we'll do it anyway, because at least if we inflict a step loss, we're going to either reduce the HQ or clear the hex. So let's go ahead and do that. A 5. DR1, 1, 1. All right, that's not bad, actually, because it's 2 step losses for the Axis, even though it's quite costly. So we have to lose another armor step, but the Axis have to take 2 step losses because they had an HQ participate. So that goes back to the force pool, and that gets reduced. So pretty ugly combat on the whole. And we will advance into that hex, I think. So there's going to be, I think, a lot of British armor steps getting chewed up during this campaign. But what are you going to do? On the plus side, we did kill, in the event, 3 Axis steps, so 2 of which were Germans. That's not terrible. And the Germans are going to have to patch up their HQ with at least one of those steps instead of patching up their line and stiffening it. So I think it was worth it just to keep them from having another multi-step unit with Italian backup and HQ support on this hex. And I think it means we're going to have to send a bunch of these units back from Norway so that we can build up enough units to keep cracking this line over the rest of the game year. That brings us to reserve movement. Now that combat is over, during the marker segment, this unit goes, or that blitz marker goes in the British force pool, since they're going to get to use it again next turn, although I doubt they'll be able to since it's bad weather, even in the desert in April, May. That's not what I wanted. So that brings us to reserve movement. This goes there, and this goes there. That should have gone during the marker segment back to the convoys box, but we don't need to worry about that. And then that will do for now, I think. That's the end of the Western faction turn. Brings us to, not that, Soviet faction. They reveal their new current card, Red Army Reforms. So during the option card segment, they just have to add something to the delay box. Those there. That's not what we want. They have replacements, 4 infantry steps. So this card is definitely the price to be paid for having slowed the Germans down. Is, 4 infantry steps could be a bit of a problem when the Germans go back on the attack in the summer. First, though, we have to pick our new penning card, which we already know is going to be Uranus Reserves Formed. Then we have replacements. 4 infantry. What are we going to do with them? We're going to put one of them in Sevastopol to build up a unit. Then we're going to put 3 units in Rostov to build up an HQ. And, well, that's that. Next up, political events. We have Red Army Reforms. A failure would be a bit of a problem here because we're going to lose a support unit. But what are we going to do? Unfortunately, with the political event, a failure is pretty likely. There's a 1 in 6 chance of purges, no result, a 1 in 6 chance of mandated offensive, and a 1 in 6 chance of failure command. But it's a 50-50 shot of failure supply. Let's just remind ourselves what failure supply does, as opposed to failure command. Failure command, of course, makes it very hard to retreat or reposition units, but mostly to retreat. Failure supply, makes it hard to attack. In the last video, we went through all the different failure effects for support units, combat, and the failure political event. The difference between failure command and failure supply is this. If failure supply is in effect, a failure-affected ground unit cannot move into a failure hex containing an enemy zone of control. No exceptions. So if we get failure supply, the Soviet forces in the north in particular would be unable to advance forward with a view to attacking Germans. The units in the south are unlikely to advance forward into enemy zones of control, so it wouldn't be a particular problem there, but, it's not great. Let's see what happens. Two becomes 4. Mandated offensive. Well, what happens here? Obviously, it's not great because the Soviets have really nowhere where they can attack. Mandated offensive. The phasing faction must do one of the following. Immediately conduct one attack that includes a friendly armor type unit. Well, there is nowhere on the map where we can do that because there are no armor type units in contact with enemy forces. Eliminate one friendly armor type step from any unit in a hex on the map, which is what we're going to have to do. And I think it'll be this step. Well, at least it wasn't failure supply. So we might be able to get an attack off somewhere. Let's think about that. With political events over, it's the support segment. There's nowhere in particular that we can play an Air Force, although I guess that would chew up a German Air Force, because they would certainly want to contest the placement. We'll go ahead and wait. With the shock armies, we could potentially get a decent attack on one of these hexes. Although no blitz combat. Let's go ahead and do that. One, two, three. These units will all shuttle forward. Those units will shuttle forward. Those go back there. That goes here. Those units will shuttle there. That goes there. One, two, three. Those will go there. Not that they're terribly worried about an encirclement coming out of Kiev. Oh, we forgot about organization. Well, let's just quickly do that. That goes there. That goes there. Those units all go into the force pool, and that goes down on its three-step side. And then that unit will advance. And maybe we'll do that. And that. And that. All right. That's operational movement. Do we have a combat? We have 20, 26, 27, 28, 29 factors attacking 10. That's 2 to 1. We have offsetting shifts for HQ. So it's a straight up 2 to 1 attack. I don't think we have an attack here. Well, an exchange would be okay, although we'd be giving up an armor step for a German infantry, which isn't terrible. There's also a chance of an AD where we just give up an armor step for nothing. Two to one is sort of right on the bubble of maybe this is an acceptable attack, maybe it's not. You know, certainly if it was a 3 to 1, we would be definitely attacking, without a doubt. I don't much like the idea of just trading an armor step for one German infantry, especially if that's the only thing we do all season. With all the German infantry that are going to appear next season. Yeah, I'm not terribly fond of that. I'm not terribly fond of that. We're not going to attack. We've got time. And we have blitz markers coming up in the winter. Once we get better armor, those same attacks against that same setup would be 3 to 1. So we'll just, even without blitz markers and stuff. So I think we'll leave it at that. So no combat. That brings us to reserve movement. 1, 2. I think now that we're not worried about the Germans sort of looping up here, maybe we just Shuffle those units down this way. Right now they're still providing a zone of control along the rail line, so that's fine. And that's it for the Soviets. They do have a conditional event, Lend-Lease. 5. That's going to be 1 infantry step, as you can see on the table here. Where are they going to put it? Probably in Kharkov. We definitely want to bulk up our forces down in the south. With the summer coming up, we're looking pretty good up north. That brings us to delay rolls. We'll just do top to bottom 3 die rolls. There's a -1 net modifier. So 3 becomes 2, 1, 2. 4 becomes 3, 1, 2, 3. And 2 becomes 1. There's a -1 die roll modifier for Western delay rolls. 3 becomes 2, 1, 2. And there is no modifier currently for Soviet delay rolls. We have 5 die rolls. 4, 3, 1, 4, 4. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 4. That's it for delay rolls. So we add these units to force pools, and that's going to go there. We have a little organizing to do. We'll just do that. And if we lose any of these units, we'll just remember to shuffle their positions around in the Soviet force pool. Where have we been putting our HQs? I'm just going to put this back in the force pool. That goes, okay, so let's put this here. And that's good. All right, back to the Axis. They have no political event, no fancy business. During support segment, this goes back to the delay box. It's mud, so there's no movement in particular. That has to go back to base. And with no scratch convoy, they're going to have to put this on the supply on the troop side to ship units across. So that brings us to organization. This unit organizes. That unit organizes. This unit organizes. And this HQ organizes. And that is that for that. Oh, you know what? The Soviets miscounted. They weren't thinking about the fact that that had fewer factors, so they could have had a 3-to-1 attack after all. Well, that was silly. They won't make that mistake again. I'm not going back now, of course. We have rolled dice, so that's my usual standard for, no takebacks. Is there any possible way to get an attack here in the mud with 2 defensive shifts and 1 offensive shift? If we bring 2 stacked tank armies into play. That's going to be 16 factors. We could bring those 5 factors in. That would make it 21, 27, 27 and 8 is 35, and 6 is 41, 42, 48, 58, 62 factors, 63 factors, attacking 9. That's 7 to 1. That brings us in the 6 to 1 column, 6181 column. There would be 2 shifts for the mud and the fort, and 1 shift for the HQ. And then there would be a -1 to all the DRs. So the DR1s would turn into exchanges, and the DR2s would turn into DR1s. So a 4 or 5 would mean trading 1 Panzer step and 1 Yugoslav step for 2 Russian steps. That might be okay if only because one of the traded steps is Yugoslav and the Russians aren't replacing those losses, which could give us a chance to clear the hex during the blitz combat segment next turn. So I think we will go ahead and do that. That goes there. That goes there. This goes here. That goes there. This will go there. This unit will ship across here. All right, so now regular combat. We have 7, 15, 21, 29, 35, 40, 48, 58, 59, 63 factors, attacking 9. So as we said, 6 to 1. There are 2 defensive shifts and 1 offensive shift. So it's 4, 1, 5, 1 column. A 6. Well, that was unfortunate. Exchange doesn't change. We just have to lose a Panzer step for a Russian infantry. That was too bad. I guess if there had been a way to attack without involving panzers and still getting in a 6-1 column, that might have been worth it because then we'd only be losing Yugoslavs. Really anything other than a 6 would have been acceptable, I think. Anyway, nothing doing. You rolls your dice and he takes your chances, and that's just how it is. That brings us to reserve movement. Marker segment, that goes back there. Reserve movement, they go there, and that goes back there. And that is the end of the Axis faction turn. Western faction. No political event. During support segment, these units go back to base. So does this. What is the effect of storms? A ground unit in a hex with storms must stop movement after moving into or out of an enemy zone of control hex. A ground unit cannot attack a hex in storms in the Blitz combat segment. An air unit does not provide an air unit shift in combat if the defending hex is a hex with storms and the air unit is adjacent to that hex. Alright. Well, we don't have any attacks, but we're not completely gummed up the way we would be with mud. So what are we doing here? I think again, we will leave open the possibility of maybe moving a unit into Cagliari. Although it might be better to actually, if we're going to cycle units into North Africa so that we can, take losses and get factors attacking the Axis, let's do that instead. So during organization segment, we'll just flip those back. A little out of sequence, but I think we will organize that unit. Next up, operation movement. So this armor step will go to the West Africa box. That's getting used. That unit goes there. This unit will shuttle back to Britain. These units cannot leave because of the enemy Zox, where it's mud. That's too bad. And then this unit goes here. This unit has to stop. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it for that. That's operational movement. I'm sure we have no combat. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 factors attacking 9. So it's 3 to 2. Becomes 1 to 2. Becomes 1 to 1. Yeah, we absolutely do not have an attack there. Because we can't attack during blitz combat, that'd be terrible. So during the marker segment, these go back to the convoys box. I accidentally sent that the wrong way. This unit will shuttle across to the East Africa box. Can't send any units home. I guess we could have if we'd shuffled the turned over the defensive fort into the infantry step. And that unit has to stop there because it's reserve movement. And that's the Western faction turn. Next up, Soviet faction. Soviet faction starts with their political event. Let's just flip that over since we're here. Political event roll. 5 becomes 6. Failure supply Soviet. The Germans definitely like that. Not so much because of the Soviet movement. They would have much rather had failure supply last turn, but it's going to eat up a Soviet support unit, potentially putting it out of action for the summer. So we need a failure marker. And we do have to flip it over onto its failure supply side. And where can we have maximum effect? That looks good. Actually, that looks better. So let's just remind ourselves, as part of the failure event, the Axis faction gets to pick a Soviet support unit, like their Air Force, and put it in the delay box. The Soviets cannot place or contest support units in the failure zone around the hex. They cannot move into hexes containing enemy zones of control. They cannot conduct airdrops, beachhead landings, advance after combat, or exploitation. Now, it doesn't affect their combat odds, but now that they are hampered by, now that the Germans have the appropriate amount of factors and we're not miscounting, they may not want to try and attack. So what are the Soviets going to do? They're going to build this unit up. They might just back away again. On the off chance the Germans muster up an attack, these hexes with the shock armies are not very good defensively, right? They only have 7 factors on their own, 10 factors with HQ support, which, it's not great. The Germans could maybe get a passable 2 or 3 hex attack with their German units, possibly with some one-step panzers and stuff. So it could cost the Soviets a bunch of steps that maybe they don't feel like losing. I think what they're going to do, since there's no cost to, or there's nothing stopping them. Oh no, they are stopped from moving out because of the mud. So that is a problem, potentially. They're going to shuttle a couple of units there just to close up the gap a bit and give that unit a chance to advance. If this unit goes there, or that stack I should say, then the HQ can go there, and then it can cover everywhere. And that is it. With the mud, it would be a 3-2 attack, and then these DR1s would turn into exchanges. So we would be trading a Soviet tank step for 1 German infantry across the board. Maybe even just losing tank step. So absolutely no attack in the mud. They are definitely kicking themselves for having forgotten about the fact that they had attritted HQ center previously. And that's operational movement. That gets removed during the marker segment. During reserve movement, the Soviets have no reserve movement. They have a conditional event. The Germans would have loved to have seen 2 failure supplies removing both of those support units, by the way, but, well, you take what you can get. Lend-Lease conditional event 2. 1 infantry step and delay reduction. I don't think delay reduction is especially useful. Well, I guess it gets an HQ a little closer to play. Maybe that's good, I don't know. And now it's delay rolls. So again, a net -1. 4 becomes 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, it's back in time for the summer. So if nothing else, the Axis are going to have all their air forces at some point over the summer. Top to bottom, 5 and a 6 becomes 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not so hot delay rolls for the British. This could be a pretty crucial delay roll. A 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what the Axis wants to see. 1 Soviet Air Force over the entire summer. I think broadly speaking, the delay rules favored the Axis there. Let's just see if we need to organize our force pools at all. No, looking good. Looking good. So, that's going to bring us to the end of the season. Our next video, we're going to start the next summer offensive. So we're going to see if the Germans are going to be able to push through to Rostov and Sevastopol. I have forgotten to place the Soviet step that they get for their Lend-Lease, so let's quickly do that now. And that's pretty much going to be that for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll hope to see you next time.